Hi guys, alright, do you know how many times I've shot this video? I'm not sure, but quite a few, because this is a really hard topic for me. This idea of this fear of missing out on family life, on my kids while I'm growing my business, okay? In other words, balance. You know, we have this idea that we want everything to be balanced and we don't want to devote too much time to work, we don't want to devote too much time to family. At the expense of work, because we want this business to be amazing and all it can be. So it's a hard topic. It's a hard topic to tackle, guys. But I want to start off this little chat about just by saying, just with a little bit of gratitude, okay? How great it is that I, at least, and I think you too, I'm assuming, since you're here, have this career, or maybe this little side gig or whatever it is for you, that you love doing so much that this is even an issue. Okay, so many people despise what they do, and here we have something that we really love doing, and the question becomes, how much time do we devote to it? All right, so I'm no expert on this topic by any means, but I want to pull in the big guns here. Gary Keller, he wrote this book, The One Thing, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I've read this book once, and as I'm referencing it, I realize I need to read it again, because these words they're powerful, you guys, they really are. So Gary tells us that when we think that we want a balanced life, what we are really struggling with is the issue of priorities. When we say we're out of balance, we're usually referring to the fact that some things that matter to us, that are important, are being underserved or undermet. And he presents this idea of counterbalance, which is that it's okay for some things in your life to be out of whack, because in order to make anything really work, in order to have a wonderful relationship with your spouse and your kids, or in order to really grow your business and promote in UBAM, in order to do that, it requires time. Time is the one thing that, not the one thing as in the book, but time is something that is required in any of those endeavors. And he says this idea of counterbalance is where it's at. This is what you want to think about, is counterbalancing your life, not balancing it. So what does that really mean? Okay, it means that the magic happens at the extremes. It means that when you devote time to something, it tends to flourish because you're giving it your all. Now, the challenge is that we kind of naturally understand this. We naturally understand that when we devote time to something, that allows it to grow and flourish. But we don't really know how to manage our lives while we're doing that. Like, I kind of instinctively know how to make my UBAM business work. I need to go out there and build connections and relationships with people and get my party calendar set. You know, I kind of naturally understand these things. But then what about my family? Like, I don't want to leave them. I mean, that's like why I'm doing this, is for them, so I can't neglect that. What he says is it's a matter of the amount of time that you're spending on each thing. So this is what a balanced life looks like, okay? Work is in the black, life is in the red. Everything is equal, but it doesn't really work that way. Then he says, here's another way you could think of it. You could say, here's work life at the extremes. You know, maybe one week you're like focused on UBAM, all of it, and then the next week, you know, it's family and nothing UBAM gets done, and you're just kind of going at the extremes. Well, that doesn't really work either. So what he says instead works much better is this idea of work-life counterbalancing. You see how life here, you never really stray too far from the middle. Meaning, you can't really ignore your kids and your family for very long before you kind of rein it back in and come back toward the middle. But work is a different story. You can counterbalance your work. You can think of, what is the one thing that's really going to make my business flourish at this particular time? It's going to be different for everyone. For example, I need to grow my central group right now. That's what I really need to do. Okay, so what do I need to do that? Well, that means that for a while, and the question is how much time, but that's something I have to consider. For a while, I am going to be focusing on growing my central group. That means having a lot of parties, filling up my calendar more than I usually would, so I can get in front of people and share the business opportunity. That might mean that I'm not posting on my VIP group as much that month. That means that I might have to delegate some of my posts on my team page to my other leaders. You see, so counterbalancing. It's kind of a hard topic to wrap your head around, which is why I really suggest reading this chapter 8. But the idea is that it's just a hard thing to comprehend. It's an idea of priorities, okay? So you have a certain amount of time to work your UBAM business. Certain things are gonna get left behind. You know, you might not get all those thank you notes written. You might not be posting in your VIP group every day. But it's a matter of what are you focusing on now with the time that you do have to work your UBAM business. And set some limits on that. When I was a new consultant, that was really hard for me. It's still hard for me today. But I do realize now that in this business, there's always more to be done. Like, you're just never gonna get to the end of that to-do list. So you have to prioritize it and you have to counterbalance it. Thanks, guys. Let me know what you think about this idea of counterbalancing, and go get the book.